The new year is starting out with a new chair of the Minnesota Republican Party. He is Alex Plechash, a current Wayzata City Council member, obviously a former Marine pilot, successful businessman. Thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, it seems that you started your tenure pretty aggressively. You've already taken legal action to delay a special election in the legislature, which we know is all tied up. And also, the Republican Party is talking about organizing recall elections for any House members of the Minnesota House who don't show up for work. Why those stands?
Well, thank you for asking the question. I would say we're not really being aggressive. We're just following the law. You know, we have black and white statutes that say this is the way elections should be run, and it applies to both parties. And Governor Walz stepped out of that. We technically did not have a vacancy until the new session. But
by setting the special election in House district in Roseville, you're saying he set it too early? Or
yes.
So it should be delayed by at least 2 weeks, you're saying?
Well, it should be according to the law.
Okay.
And there are certain time constraints that are written into statute that we feel that he should be following, and that's why we filed the lawsuit.
Okay. How about calling out House Democrats who may well not show up because of the situation in the House and actually trying to organize recall elections against them? I don't recall anything like that ever happening.
Well, I don't know if it's ever happened before, but I think it's kind of ironic that the DFL got up and said that we're playing games when in fact they're the ones playing games. We just want to follow the law. And the fact that they don't like the way the things are written, they threaten to have this tactic. Well, again, think about it. If any company hired a series of employees and said, come on, this is your start date, and then those employees decided not to show up for work, I don't think that would carry over too well. And that's what our taxpayers want. They want people to show up and actually do what they're supposed to do, what they're elected to do.
And I want to say the Democratic Speaker-designate Melissa Horstman has said that they will be working. They will be meeting with constituents. They'll be working in their districts. They just won't be at the Capitol with Republicans.
Well, we all know that that's just a tactic to delay quorum so they can't actually do the business of the people.
All right, I want to ask you about the Republican Party in general in Minnesota, because you've had some successes. There are now 4 members of Congress that are Republicans. You obviously had gains in the legislative session where it's almost a tie. But yet, Minnesota Republicans have not had a statewide victory since 2006. That's really almost unbelievable. What are you going to do to try and change that?
Well, thank you for asking that question, too, and we're very well aware of that.
I'm sure you are.
I would point to the fact that we were within a razor's edge of winning 2 of those statewide seats in this most recent election, less than 0.5%. So we just need to get the message out.
In the most recent election, which is?
2024.
Oh, 2024. Which
With
seats?
Jim Schultz and Ron Wilson. That's
okay,
the
that was close.
Attorney General and the state auditor. Yeah. So we do know how to get the message out. We just need to do a better job. When we're outspent something like 8 or 10 to 1, I mean, money does come into play. We can get the message out, but if you got a 10 to 1 disadvantage.
Isn't that your job to raise the money?
Oh, yes, it will be. And I'm also very well aware of that.
All right. And certainly the state auditor's position was very close. The Attorney General's not quite as much. But I want to ask you, in the last election in 2024, you had some candidates that, frankly, a lot of Republicans said were not up to standards. What do you say about that?
Well, I could tell you that we have a great bench of talent in the Republican Party. And on the 2006, since we haven't had any elections since 2006 and statewide, I think a lot of people are kind of skittish about that. Why do I want to follow into something where I'm not going to win? But we've seen gains now, and I think people are beginning to say, you know what, this may be worth it. We do have a real deep bench of talent. We just need to attract them to come forward.
So are you saying there will be high-quality candidates for the U.S. Senate seat currently held by Tina Smith, and also the governor's position in 2026? Can we expect that from the Republicans?
I think definitely for the governor's position. Again, we have a great depth of talent, and we're cultivating those relationships right now. I'm very optimistic about what's going to happen next year.
All right, Alex Plechash, congratulations on being named the new chair of the GOP party, and thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.